Oh, hey folks, how you doing? Boy, you've picked a good day to come over and check out my channel. You know why? Because you know that there's just no depths of depravity and humiliation and degradation that I will do to myself, right? Well, I did a news report this morning, and I was at Miami Beach, and I I got a job, and it was a really odd event. So we'll call this story time, and I will tell you what happened, and this will go from yesterday. Okay, um, I, eh, um, if looking for a job sucks in this day and age, let's just call a spade a spade. Okay, it sucks. However, and like you won't get much action if you put in a job for driver. They don't hire every second person that applies to be an Amazon driver. I'm sorry to disappoint all you people who think it's so easy to be an Amazon driver. So, and I mean, I'm experienced in peeing in a cup. I mean, I could do it, It's like, forget it, okay? They don't hire out. It's bullshit, okay? You have to forget it. Don't bother. So, I've got a security license. And with the security license, it's not too bad. You can wind up getting some interest because there's a hell of a lot of security companies, and if you tune in to Indeed or whatever other job sites or job search or whatever it is, every 6 weeks you'll find something probably new. So I won't pad this story too much. We'll keep going along here. But I can assure you it's worth listening to, okay? Especially if you compare in comparison to my other stuff, okay? I think that's the best way to put it. So, being a natural masochist, I figured I would go and try to work at security again, because I did this back when I was in January when I got that job, That was on my other channel. They took it. But, I did a whole video on it, and they were paying me $13 an hour, and it was a good job. And unfortunately, we had absolute psychotic, lunatic retards, fucked up people working at that, and fucked up people. A couple of those people living there were fucked up, as in criminally insane, while posing as Hasidic Jews. Thank you very much. But we'll not delve into that. That's all in the past, okay? Anyways, we're going to talk about yesterday, which was actually, I'll take you back to Friday. Friday, they asked me if I wanted to go to an interview, and I said okay. And the guy was a nice guy, but he's one of these guys with the heavy Brooklyn accents, or somewhere there in the Bronx or something. And when like by the when somebody's got an accent when they're talking like that. Obviously they're the owner of the company, and he was a nice guy, but something might be off. Well, what happened was, and it may not be off, okay? This ultimately is going to come down on my shoulders. And if you were to ever talk to MJ, my latest number 14 and 15, and my friend, I'll make up a name, it's not his real name, let's say Kyle, you would see that they would say, like, whatever's wrong with Paul is not a small thing, all right? We've known him for like 22 years now. Whatever it is, it ain't a small thing, okay? And you could take their word for it, okay? And I'm sure they'd heartily agree, okay? In between the tokes, like that. Well, they're all right though. Anyways, so on Friday I went to a job interview, and I was kind of sick of it, and was like my last one, because it's just taking away time that you can just go and slave away doing food delivery and slowly make your 70 or 90 bucks. And that's usually how it goes. And it takes all day to do it. Okay. So, I said, this is the last one. I'm not going to go on anymore, because they all promise you everything. And then when you get there, it's the usual nonsense. So, I I went, and the guy that interviewed me was a nice guy. You could tell he was a nice guy. And he was severely injured, I found out. Like, he could have been paralyzed because when he'd walk, his hand would stay like this, like it wasn't right. But he was a nice guy. You could tell. And he was an ex-employee of the Miami police force, whatever that is. Don't even ask me because I'm not an expert. I would imagine that the Cubans had their hand in that heavily, okay? I don't know that for sure, but I mean, look, let's bash on the Cubans today, okay? I think that's the appropriate thing to do. However, as much as I bash on the Cubans, they're still our brothers, and we still support them with that goddamn effing lunatics down there in 90 miles from us over there in Havana, okay? So believe me, we still support them. They're just a pain in the ass, all right, as we've delved into before. So, and I think he was Cuban. I think he was a Cuban guy, but a good guy nonetheless, okay? And he kind of showed me the property. And folks, these were, do you understand when I say upscale? I'm not talking about the Airbnb places that I went to where people go to the place and they go, whoa, there's a balcony. Wow. That's not what I'm talking about. The place that I worked at just now, that place was opulent, okay? I mean, upscale, to be sure. Now, I saw a Rolls Royce today. I saw an Aston Martin yesterday. I mean, these are cars you don't see every day, okay? I saw a Lamborghini that must have been the 2022. It looked different than anything I've ever seen. It looked so ridiculous. It sat about an inch off the ground. It was like ridiculous. This yellow, beautiful Lamborghini Countach, I think is what it was. But I mean, this is what you're talking about there. Now, not all, but there are some. So you can tell what kind of place this is. Now, last night, now I'll kind of carry this through. So Friday, the guy Christian was a nice guy, and the other guy that was there, everybody was a nice guy as far as I could tell. And I'll leave that in limbo, okay? I'll leave that in limbo for you. It'll be part of the mystique of this story that I'm telling you. So you can come to your own conclusion, okay? So Friday, he walks me around. He says, I'll show you the premises. And I walked around the premises with him, and he seemed like he was a decent guy. And quiet and not overbearing. He was a decent guy. And, as we got done walking around this place, he said, he ended it with we'll be in touch. Okay. And then I drove home. And as I was driving back home from the beach, because the beach isn't exactly an easy gig. It depends, of course, what time you go, how bad the traffic is, if there's a bike marathon there, which is like every weekend. So, you know what I'm saying. So I'm driving back home and I'm saying to myself, I just cost myself $45 because I could have done food delivery right now. And, I would have been at 30 or 40 bucks already, So that thing is going through my mind. And I'm saying to myself, I got a lot of nothing. Nice guy, likes me, blah, 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 but nothing happening. So I spent the weekend working, doing my work, lawn work and so forth and so on. And then they told me they'd be thinking about starting me on Tuesday. So I thought maybe Monday was a holiday, whatever it was. So what happened was the other job place that was looking for a job for me is a woman. And this is the one that I screwed the pooch on because about 2 weeks ago when I was getting away from the double-fisted car activist routine over at that other place, I just couldn't break off. It was my fault. I just couldn't break off. And I wound up not being able to stay in that other job, even though I wanted to go back and they said it was okay. The old expression, you can't unring a bell. Once you tell them that you dropped them like a hot potato and you went to another company and then changed your mind, you just rang a bell that you can't stop them from hearing. So you can't unring a bell. So anyways, so it didn't work out. Okay. And I had to quit. And it was too ridiculous to talk about. Okay. Just too ridiculous to talk about. Too stupid to talk about. Just ridiculous, horrendous nonsense. So this other woman promised me a job, and it was pretty good, $15 an hour on the weekends and 2 days a week at $13 an hour at 2 different places. Could have had the job, and I should have taken that job. But I wasn't ready to spread my wings and fly yet. That was the long and short of it, okay? So what happened was she wouldn't return my call because I called her back like a few days later, and I tried to explain to her. So I just let some time go by. And a couple of days ago, maybe on Monday or Tuesday, whatever it was, Tuesday, I called her and I said, look, I'm ready to work now. I know I put you through a hassle, but I'm ready to work. I'm not associated with that DHL anymore, and I can fly anytime you tell me. And then she said, okay, well, I'll look for a job to place you. So I went 3 days ago over to Aventura, and she put me to a place that was essentially, and I know everybody gets mad at me at this, but it was a neurotic place of old aldercockers. Okay, we will not endeavor into that any further. That just means in Yiddish, old shitters. Okay. And that's not a good deal because there's too many problems with that. That's why it's not good to get into condos. It's really hard on security. Too many people watching you. So, so what happened was I went for the interview. I didn't want to go on the interview because I knew it was too much for me because they were talking about heavy computer skills, And so I kind of said to myself, maybe this isn't a good idea. And I knew I was right. But I had to do it because I had to dress up real nice, because the woman arranged it for me to go, and I had to do it in order to keep on a friendly term. I had to at least try. So I did. And of course, I told the man I didn't think I could qualify for this because he told me that he fired a woman in 3 weeks, and I didn't blame him. She couldn't catch on. So that nixed. The next day, which was yesterday, she got me another place. But to be honest with you, she misrepresented it. She said that it was one of these things where this is her version of it. This is what she told me. She said, now she doesn't tell me the same thing. Well, now she insists that it's the same thing. But I went to the interview yesterday, and here's what happened. She said it was one of these places that needed a person of age and wisdom. That ain't me, folks, okay? I hate to say it. I'm the same one that went on my failed military career when I was put in charge of all the kids. I got lost at fucking Midway, okay? I mean, does that give you everything that you need to know, okay? It's lucky I didn't take them to the stadium there to Soldier Field, okay? I did manage to wind up getting them to whatever the hell it was over there, Great Lakes, okay? Give me credit for that. Everything else went downhill in a hurry. Now, MJ and Kyle are cracking up. By the way, Kyle's not his real name. It's just a makeup name I made for him. So they're cracking up right now. Now, so anyways, so I went to this interview yesterday, but I figured I'd kill 2 birds with a stone. Because this guy with the, the New York accent, I won't get into it, floor, you walk over the floor, like that kind of stuff. And when it's like really, enunciated, over enunciated, it worries me. Okay, what can I tell you? All right, I'm a Boston man. Okay, I trust them when they say "care." Pack the care, pack the care. But in New York, how I feel about this. Okay, I'm a Boston man. That's how you tell. You had the people who were Munster fans in the 60s, and you had the Addams Family fans, and they were completely different. And I was a Munsters fan, not an Addams Family fan. Though the Addams Family fans were the ones that grew up with spider collections and pet snakes and things like that. You know what I mean? And I knew kids like that. I knew them. But I wasn't like that. You know what I mean? I was more playing baseball and all that. So I was a Munsters person. Now, I tried to kill two birds with a stone here because I suspected that this might be more than what I could handle on this next interview. So I pulled up to the Diplomat Hotel, and because the Diplomat is a major hotel here, okay, it's huge, okay? The Diplomat, I think, is one of the biggest ones on that beach there. It is enormous. So, and very well known, by the way, okay? You don't have to be a genius to figure that one out, the Diplomat. So, it's been around forever. So, I was worried about it a little bit, but I pulled up, and on the beach, you don't just pull up and park. That's not the way it works. So I knew that this was going to be a problem. If I had time, I would have taken the bus over there, honestly. But I couldn't do it. So I got there, and they said, go across the street, pull into the parking garage, take the ticket, and we'll validate it. Now, that's fine because they can tell you anything they want to tell you, right? But when the brass tacks comes, you got to get the fuck out of that fucking hellhole parking area. And it starts at $35, okay? Unless you stay for more than 3 hours. So are you feeling me here with that situation? So I did what he told me, which is I went in and I parked on the 4th level. I came down and I went to the job interview, and it was really hard because the Diplomat has reverse numbers. It's the stupidest thing ever. So it was 35, 55, and so you're right. Oh, you know what it was? It wasn't. It was South Ocean Drive, so it was right. I was confusing it. Because if it's North Ocean Drive, it's different than South Ocean Drive, and evidently it was whatever it was. I confused it. I thought I was going to go south in order to get it, and I had to go north to the next building, so I screwed it up. But it wasn't a big deal. I found it. Okay, I went in, and the guy was a nice guy. He was a nice guy, but he was kind of semi-Guido-ish. Kind of like this guy that owns the company, just not quite as bad. Okay, nice guy, though. And, he said, all right, well, and he made it clear to me that, like, I was the only one in the joint. Everything was going to rely on me. You're always going here and always going there, and you got to make sure you get there to let out Auntie Sadie there from the elevator when she's stuck in there, and you got to do this one. You got to know how to do this, and it's a lot to learn. And I mean, it was. I mean, he was. Oh, and then another thing that kind of freaked me out. I lost my tie. This is a true story, by the way. We might have to go into 2 parts for this because this is really something here, this story. It's another exciting story here at this channel. So I forgot my tie. So I had to wear my white shirt, and, you can't wear the choke button. So you have to leave it like this, but then that looks extra dorky. So you just kind of open up one thing here, right? Well, the guy that was showing me the job said that we were going in to a certain place because he's showing me all around. And then he told me that I had to button my shirt because there was a girl present in here. And folks, an dress shirt, we're talking about like to right here, okay? We're not talking about slitting down the cleavage here. And I began to wonder right then. And then we went in, and there was a control panel that looked like you were sitting in an F-16, where it's real easy to learn. And I just because I cut yards for all my life. I don't have this computer skills, and it was another computer skill nightmare. And I told him, I said, look, you can stop here. You're a nice fella. You're a decent fella. I think this is too much for me. I don't have the last place that I worked at. The building was closed. And it was pretty self-explanatory, wasn't this? So, he thanked me for coming in, and then I go across the street, and then validating your ticket is not exactly as slam dunk as you might think. And I made $35 yesterday because I managed, without getting into it, I managed to get out of that parking area, which is designed to not be able to get out. Okay? And I was lucky to get out. And I had already assumed that I was not going to get out without the $35. I wound up getting out without having to pay the $35, and I consider myself made $35. Okay? Now, I realize that's not going to work now. Okay? And I was lucky to get the hell out of there with my skin in my car. Now, the other guy had told me that he'd like to have me go and start working at that place, but not really start working, but go into whatever was next. Because I had already met, not the place, the Diplomat, but this other place down in Hallandale, which is like right next to Miami Beach, right there in Hallandale. That was a nice place. Upscale to say the least. So I went back to the place that I went to on Friday, last week or whatever it was, right? Because whatever. And the boss called me up, and that big boss there, and he called me up and he told me to go into the place and tell him that, because I was supposed to start on Tuesday, but I didn't get anything I didn't get any messages from him. They didn't call me. I didn't get any messages. I didn't get anything that said, welcome, we're looking forward to seeing you. Please show up, come properly attired, we have your uniform, whatever it was. I didn't get any of that. Okay, because I kept looking, because the job paid $14 an hour, which is pretty good. So I went to the place, and I realized if I was going to get a job, it was going to be that one. The other one, I couldn't do it. There's no way I could have done that one. And there was a lot there to that one, that Diplomat Hotel, which is not surprising. The Diplomat is a major big league hotel. Okay, not that this other one wasn't, that I'm telling you about, but it wasn't as well known as that one. The one that I'm telling you now is called the Beach Club. It's called Beach Club. It was big time. I mean, Rolls Royce, Austin Marine, or whatever it is, that car that nobody knows, and all these Ferraris and this and that. A lot of them. These were very high-end people. So they put me right to work, and unfortunately, I wore these cocksuckers, okay? And these cocksuckers look good, but they're flat-foot shoes. You get it? And I had the most difficult time working, because they had me working from 11 o'clock in the morning, which is when I got in there. Then they put me right to work. They gave me a shirt, and my pants were good enough, and I went right to work. And what I did there yesterday was walk back and forth all day without break. And I could stay in the shade for the most part, but for the most part, it was walking outside, which is hot, all day, back and forth. And that's what I did. And it was hard, but I'm saying to myself, it's $14 an hour. You got to do that. It's like back in the 60s or in the late 50s and the early 60s, when those astronauts, they didn't want to do these interviews with the public and all that, and they didn't want to introduce their wives and their kids to the camera and everything, but they just kept telling them, we need to put a nice family spin on this. We got to get them to know you. They didn't like that, and they kept telling them, look, man, no Buck Rogers. Because that was the big thing at the time. Buck Rogers was like a space thing back then in the 50s and 60s. So they kept telling him that, man, we don't have bucks. We can't do anything with you. We can't make you go to the moon. So same thing here. I try to do that. So I stuck with it, and I worked all day. The place is super beautiful, super beautiful. 3 buildings, very big buildings, 44 floors with each building. They had like 8 or 9 pools, maybe 10 pools. It's unbelievable. I went up there last night, and they're all neoned, so it's like ridiculously beautiful. And they're not on the ground. I never saw this before. They're up on the 6th floor. So you look out at the ocean, and it's just so beautiful. I mean, these people really have life, okay? So what happened was, I worked all yesterday. Everybody there was cool. They were nice people. Honestly, I don't have anything negative to say about them, really. So I got up this morning after getting back home at 11 o'clock last night because I worked only till 10. So I pulled 11 hours, right? 11 hours. And I was tired as hell. My feet were killing me, really. It wasn't my feet, it was also my ankles because of the nature of the way that I was walking in those shoes. So I got home and I just, I took 2 shots and I went to sleep. I'm glad I did. I needed to relax. Then I went to work this morning at 9 o'clock. So I get to work at 9 o'clock, and now they're going to train me for loading dock. So that's a good thing. And I went down there and I started doing what I was supposed to. And the boss came over after I'd been outside doing what I was supposed to. I went on my laptop for a couple seconds, and that's, of course, when he walked in. This is all usually by design. They can usually see you and when you're fucking up. That was just how Gilbert was over in the other place there. They catch you fucking up, you know. And I was out there walking around and stuff like that, just making sure. But as soon as I got back in, then he caught me, and then that's how they manipulate you. So, you know, he said just stay off, you know, don't go on your tablet and make sure you stay outside and blah, blah, blah. So it's all right. It was no big deal. It was no dust up or anything like that. He was just making it clear. And he was right, because there's big people that walk around and, you know, they want to make sure that you're suffering for your money. That's the long and short of it. So I was told that they gave me a pass for my car, a parking pass. Okay. So I had a parking pass, and they told me to come up, which is a long walk. And if you don't want to go in the sun, you have to go underneath the bowels of the building, which is the parking garage. So it's complicated. In fact, it's very hard to find a bathroom there. It's very difficult. If you don't go to the place where the security office is in the final building, which is far, then you have to know what you're doing with going up places that you need the card to get into and get up that elevator. You can get in the elevator, but the elevator won't respond because you don't have your card. So I'm making my way through, going back to move my car, because there was no parking. And he told me, he said, look, we just made you a pass and your ID now. So come up to the office and I'll have you move your car into the garage, and you have to put the sticker on it. And I said, okay. So when I got back there, the Christian, the nice guy, the Cuban guy that was of age, maybe 47, 48, he's not too much junior to me. He said, I forgot my walkie-talkie over at the place. I said, let me just go get it for you, because that might have been easiest. So I walked back over there through the parking garage, okay? And it's kind of like, I know it doesn't, you know what, folks? I'm going to go to a part 2, okay? I'm going to go to a part 2. No, I won't. I'll stay on this, okay? Hopefully it'll make it all in time. It's kind of like going to the fun house. Remember when you used to go to the House of Glass? I don't know how many of you remember that, but you'd walk in and it kind of looked like you could make it through, but then you kept like bumping into mirrors, like the House of Mirrors. That's kind of like how that place was. Okay? It was really hard to find everything. There were a lot of nooks and crannies in there, and it was weird. So I went back and I picked up his walkie-talkie, and I was walking back through the parking garage, and I saw a very innocent looking door that said to ground level or whatever it is. So I went there and it wasn't locked. So I opened it up, and I thought that's where you go down and then it takes you up to the other level. Don't worry, it wasn't a fire alarm. It didn't set the whole thing and people came out. It didn't do that. But what did happen was, as soon as I went in there, I went in and the door closed, and I went over and I went up the stairs, and it said fire alarm. Fire alarm will go off if I go out that other door. Well, I'm not going to do that. So I turned around and I went back, and guess what? I'm locked in. Okay? And I'm locked into this little hallway, and the way I'm sweating right now in this car, that's the way it was over there. So now I've managed. Can you believe this? I know my detractors love this, and MJ will be cracking up because like, and like Kyle will be like, right now in the story, which is not his real name, by the way. It's a makeup name. So I'm locked in now. Okay. Now, fortunately, I had his walkie-talkie, because if I didn't, I would have to sit there and bang on the door. And evidently, this was subterranean. Okay. Because I was down. So I told him, I called on the walkie-talkie and I said, hey, I'm locked in a hallway. It says 5A. They said, well, we don't know where you are. And I said, well, I'm here. I can't get out. It took 45 minutes. I looked like this when they finally got there, and they couldn't figure out where I was. And they're going up to the 5th floor. This is a 50-story building, folks, right? It's a 44-story building. They finally had the rescue party. You folks think I'm fucking with you, don't you? Right? You folks think I'm fucking with you to make up stories, right? They sent the rescue crew, which was the big heavyset woman who was my boss, and the who had been all right up until that time, and she was even nice then, but I've got more on that. So what happened? They finally found me, they let me out, and I could hear the mumblings on the radio, and it was not complimentary. You know what I mean? It was like, well, we're playing Where's Waldo? Well, you have to be honest, folks, and that is, I'm kind of a fucking jerk off, okay? As a Christ-like figure, how do you have to approach this? You have to take the blame for it. Why? Did Marcus get caught locked into a hallway? No. Did Christian ever get locked into a hallway? No. Has anybody ever in that upscale apartment ever been locked in the bowels of the place where you cannot be found? Well, I found a way to do that. You understand? So finally, after the Where's Waldo routine, literally, they show up, and I took the woman by the hand, and I put the hand like this, and I took my pass, which didn't work to get me out, because it works on some doors but not others. And I slapped it in her head, and I said, this ain't for me. And I walked right over, and I said, I'm leaving. I said, nothing against